But why is it, do you think, that nostalgia plays such an important role in Star Wars fandom? And is it a dangerous thing at times?
No, it's not dangerous at all. I
Never
mean,
dangerous.
I think it's only a plus and when done well and when done right. And I'll
Yep.
talk about that in a second. But I think to answer your question, like nostalgia is a powerful force in everything in
Right.
life. We all get older. I notice that your beard is gray
Yeah, it's white. It's
and white, gray. Exactly. I've got some of that in what hair that I have left.
yes.
And, but whether it's Star Wars or anything else, I mean, the stuff that we loved when we were kids will
Hmm.
always be powerful. And Star Wars was, so all encompassing for me as a kid. When I see those characters, when I see those elements pop up in the new ones, it just strengthens that connection.
Yeah.
But in terms of being done well, if I'm going to get on my high horse, for instance, the nostalgia and Skeleton Crew is done very well
Yes.
because it's not there's no attention called to it.
Yeah.
If you know, you know,
Yep. Yep.
and you're like, whoa, that is the same kind of creature who was in the battle for Endor.
Yes.
And that's hilarious and amazing. But
Yep.
you don't have to know that. And I
Right.
watched Skeleton Crew with my kids, and like they have no idea that they like Ewoks, but I've never subjected them to the Ewok movies because I know they'll be bored to tears.
Right.
But and they're not enough into Star Wars to be, super completists like that.
Right.
But like um but I knew, and I was
Right.
totally delighted, but it didn't take away from the story. I don't know if it added to the story. I mean, there was a creature that ferried them from one place to the other. And so
Yep.
like I've read that, and I didn't even notice that the Star Tours ship is in
Yeah.
um,
It's in the background at the
yeah,
at Port
and like
Borgo. Yep.
or the Captain EO character, which isn't even Star Wars, is visible. And those are just like fun touches that are fun if you notice them. I
Right.
think you got to be a little careful to not like do it so much that, or to the extent that you're taking somebody out of the
Yep.
story, I guess. But that hasn't happened with me yet. And I know that that's why I was saying that Rebels fans would love the Ahsoka series more than those of us who, I've seen Rebels, but I was never into Rebels. And so
Right.
that Rebels is now old enough, I'm guessing, when did it end? At
Uh,
least
5 years
10
ago.
years? No,
Yeah.
5 years ago.
Now I'm gonna look that up now. Yeah.
2016, there was new episodes of Rebels, you're telling me? Maybe there was. Maybe you're right.
I
I
have to
guess
look it
it
up.
was on in the mid.
March 5th, 2018 was the final episode.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not
So
that
yes.
old. Okay,
Yeah.
but I'm imagining there's nostalgia involved.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's the ones that bring you in. Like I talk a lot about how my 12-year-old son, like his Star Wars is Clone Wars.
Right.
So his entree into Star Wars was the animated series. His Han, Luke, and Leia are Rex, Fives, and Cody, right? Those are his guys. And there's a lot of people who, for them, that's Rebels. And I think that might have been one of the issues, honestly, with Ahsoka, is that it was a story that was still a little recent. And that, so now if you were to come back and, tell me, I don't know, Sebulba's story, I don't know, just pulling that out of it.
I would love to see some
That
Bulba's
would be
story.
like that. I would be so into, because I would, whatever happened, did he go on to race again or whatever? But I think that there's yes, it almost, that leads more to, there's a difference between nostalgic and being self-referential,
Well,
right?
there's also it's also like, why wasn't it a Rebels series?
Right.
If you wanna critique anything, and why did Book of Boba Fett have 2 episodes that were basically episodes of The Mandalorian?
Yep.
Like, that's a little weird.
Yep.
I loved those episodes,
Sure.
so it's not really a complaint, but it's a little off.
Yep. Yep. For sure. And I totally agree. And I think that's the weird thing. And so there's the recency, but there's also the old stuff. And does it ever feel like they're leaning too much into that? I know we talked about how, nostalgia is not it maybe a better way to put it is, an example of it being done really well is the teak flying the little
Mhm.
fairy back and forth. Um, in Rogue One, or yeah, Rogue One, when Dr. Evazan is on the streets, that
Mm,
felt a little like, hey, look, it's that guy from the
mm.
cantina. Remember him? So
And what really worked for me with the nostalgia in Rogue One was just going, "Oh, we're at Yavin Base.
yeah, yep,
Oh, look at the hallways on the, Death Star," or
yep,
whatever it was, like, that kind of visceral feeling of, "Oh, we're back in that world,"
yep,
and I think that, if anything, I feel like the way it's been overdone, and I would put this a little bit on Force Awakens and a lot on Rise of Skywalker, is more in kind of repeating the same basic stories.
yes, hmm,
And, it kind of worked with Force Awakens because it had been so long and it was
yep,
like structured very much like something we knew. And it was very nostalgic movie while also feeling new.
hmm,
And for me, it worked.
yep,
And
yep,
then by the time we got to Rise, but then we had Last Jedi, which I really like, and which really made an effort to break out of that and to
yep,
keep it a Star Wars story, but take it in surprising different directions.
yes,
But a lot of people didn't like that. They were like, "Oh, why is it going in that direction?"
right, right,
And I liked it. And so I think there was an overcorrection with Rise of Skywalker, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to say this,
yep,
where it was too much like, again, like, okay, now we're gonna do it again. And like we've seen this, we've seen, say what you will about episodes 1, 2, and 3. And there are, I believe, some narrative, issues we could talk about in those, but they were very different
yeah, yep,
in from each other and from the original trilogy.
right,
They had that feeling, they were in that world, and like that's the best kind of nostalgia, is having that feeling and being in that world. But
yeah,
that to me was the biggest problem with Rise of Skywalker, was it didn't feel confident enough to go in those new directions that Last Jedi did. Like it almost felt like
yeah,
we were shrinking back down.
yeah,
And okay, my Ray is related to Palpatine. Like there, it's let's keep it all, let's get it all back under control into this world that we're familiar with.